Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I do hope that you are staying well and safe wherever you are. If you are new to the channel, my name is Emily and today I'm going to do some more prompts from Ethony Dawn's 31 Days of Tarot hashtag. So let's just get right on into the prompts. So prompt number 15 is, what was your best, worst, memorable tarot moment of 2020? For example, a message that shocked you to get or give, a deck that surprised you, or even a reading that stuck with you. Last year there were a few occasions where in my daily draws the same card would come up consecutively day after day, and I remember there was one occasion with the 9 of Swords and the 10 of Swords, and they were alternating, and that was with the Sassorabito Tarot, and it felt like it was just not letting it go until I learnt my lesson and I did what I needed to do with it. And once I did, the cards, they just left me alone. And there was another scenario where the 9 of Wands showed up for about 2 weeks. So 3 days on 1 week, and then the next week another 3 days it appeared. So it was quite a lot of sort of 9 of Wands energy, and the 7 of Wands was appearing as well on the other days. So the similar kind of energy was sort of coming up for me during that time, and I knew what it was about and I just needed to work through that. So the journaling really helped with that. So there were quite a lot of those sort of little synchronicities within my daily readings and my journaling practice that I experienced last year. Also with the Morrigan, whenever I had a deck where there was a depiction of her, if I drew from it, she would come out, her card would always come out. So in a way, when it did, it was sort of acting as confirmation, or it was acting as, I think, sort of divine intervention and advice that needed to, you know, be heard. And I always noticed that when it happened. The Queen of Swords as well was my main card for 2020 from my year ahead spread, the main theme card, and it did come up a lot during my year. So I felt this sort of thread throughout the year of like sovereignty, and I knew that that's what the lesson was that I was learning through the Queen of Wands. And I think that the energy of the Queen of Wands sort of ties in quite nicely with the energy of the Morrigan as well, so that sort of overlaps a little bit. Another memorable moment is when I just decided to start sketching out a tarot deck for myself, and that was so fun and so liberating, and it was really quite empowering because up until then I think I'd never thought that I could actually create a tarot deck for myself. Even though I have always loved art, I've loved painting and drawing and stuff, I'm not an artist, and so I was like, oh, I could never do that, but actually, you know, why not? And even if it does take me 20 years, as I think it probably will, that doesn't matter, but it is sort of a labour of love for me, and I'm so excited to continue that journey this year. And finally, another really poignant moment was when I actually decided to create this channel. I have another channel that I started several years ago that is sort of more about lifestyle and motherhood, fashion and beauty and home. So in terms of creating content, that has been sort of my main focus up until towards the end of last year. But I sort of realised that I had so much that I wanted to contribute to the community, and I had things that I wanted to say, and I had things that I wanted to share and topics that I wanted to talk about. I just decided to create a second channel, and that is this channel. So I wanted it to be a place where I could talk about tarot, but also other spiritual topics, and specifically sort of witchcraft, magic, those kinds of topics. And it's still really early days, but I've really enjoyed the process. I think it's just been so fun, you know, creating videos and doing VRs and taking part more in the community and just exploring topics a little bit, and I'm really excited to do more of it as well in the year to come. So prompt number 16 is, which tarot decks give you the most insight by way of the imagery and symbolism of the cards rather than intuition or basic tarot knowledge? Let's think. I think pretty much all of the tarot decks I have and enjoy do what I need them to do in terms of illustrating, but they do that in different ways. I definitely think that the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery is really illustrative, but the reason I'm not going to talk about those here is because obviously that is kind of tied up with basic tarot knowledge, especially for me because I learnt from the Rider-Waite-Smith system. That's where I started. So when I do look at that imagery, it takes me back and I think about all of the traditional symbology. So rather than it being like basic knowledge about the tarot, and rather than it being sort of intuitive hits, I think decks like the Everyday Witch Tarot and the Green Witch Tarot are really good illustrative decks for this kind of purpose. Mostly I think it is because they are quite modern and accessible in terms of the way that the art is, like the art style. So they are just very, very easy to kind of understand and look at and see what is happening. There's so many sort of illustrative qualities to each of these decks. Another one would be the Modern Witch as well, and sort of I suppose almost like Rider-Waite-Smith clones, I'd say. Rider-Waite-Smith clones I think are really, really good at depicting and portraying the meanings, but moving away from the sort of traditional as well, because it gives you more than that, but it really, really illustrates the meanings beautifully. So this one is the Everyday Witch, which is similar to the Green Witch, but still with a different energy, a different feel to it. But I think these are just really accessible decks. I also picked up the Intuitive Heart Tarot recently, and I think that is a kind of deck that really, really shows it well as well. I have that out, but I have not yet worked with it because I want to do a walkthrough, so that is over there. But that is the new one by Rachel True. So yeah, I think there's a number of decks that really do illustrate the meanings really, really beautifully without being sort of traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, but also taking from the original imagery and not being too sort of intuitive in that way either. So that's probably what I would say. And things like the Mermaid Tarot as well, I think they're really, really good. And the Dame Darcy's Mermaid Tarot, Tarot of the Hidden Realms, something like the Druidcraft, really, really good. Again, so a number of decks. But the first couple I thought of were definitely the Everyday Witch and the Green Witch, so shared those here, but the others definitely as well. There's a number of decks. And also I did pick up the 78 Tarot Elemental specifically because this is a deck created with 78 artists, so each artist has been chosen to depict a card specifically, I think, because of the style of art and also because of the way that that artist is choosing to depict whatever card it is. I do think that these lend really, really well to sort of illustrative qualities as well. So that's the 78 Tarot Elemental. So the next prompt is, what tarot card in the deck do you look out for the most when you get a new deck? If you don't like that card, does it ruin the deck for you? For me, it's death. Always death. If it's got an interesting depiction of death, then it draws me in. I also always fall in love with the star. Pretty much every star I see, I fall in love with. So if I do see a star that I don't love, then I'm like, meh. So the star, but first, definitely death. I don't know why. I actually really love the death card, and you know, a lot of people in the tarot community talk about loving the death card as well. Obviously it's got more sort of challenging connotations, especially to people who don't understand the tarot, and so when you're reading for others, you know, there's the kind of like explanation around that. But for me, I love that card, and if I see a depiction that really like excites me, I always look out for that card. I also look out for cards like the Tower and the Devil, again because they are more challenging in nature, especially for beginners. I think it's really interesting to see how those cards have been depicted. Death first, then the Star. Definitely the two that I sort of look at in the first instance. Do you read reversals? Why or why not? I actually do read reversals, and I always have, really, mostly because the way I tend to pull my cards, it's them falling out, and I make sure that I see which way it's come out and then put it whichever way it's to go. And I also use placements as well, so it can get a little bit confusing if you have like a challenging placement in a spread that comes out upright, but then your more positive questions come reversed. So whilst I do read with reversals, I am using my intuition more when it comes to doing a spread like that, where the positions are kind of laid out and there are questions that are sort of energy and advice and then like challenge in the middle or something. And if the challenge comes out upright and it's a really positive card, I do still think of that in a sort of reversed way. But sometimes if it comes out reversed and it's the advice, sometimes I do think of that in a reverse way as well. It totally depends on how I'm reading it, really, and the intuitive hits, I kind of depend on those intuitive hits, but they happen. So it's yes, but it depends on the placement as well. If it's just, you know, 3 cards without any sort of particular positions, it's a little bit easier to then say, okay, that's upright, that's reversed. But still, even some of the upright cards, I think, well, that's definitely a lesson right there. That's definitely a challenge right there. That's not just, oh, everything's hunky-dory, because I might know the situation and I'm feeling into the situation. So I think it's a very fluid thing for me, but yes, I do. Yes, I do read reversals, and I do feel like with the connections that I have with the tarot decks, that is what I'm drawn to do. That's what I'm meant to do. That's just how I read. But I'm obviously open to learning and growth and all sorts. So yeah, you know, maybe in years to come I won't. And you know, I often see readers talking about how they used to and now they don't, or they never used to and now they do. And so there's a sort of constant kind of like development and growth and, you know, evolution there. So I expect that too. But yes, I do, and I always have. The next prompt is share which deck gives you the heebie-jeebies. Oh, okay. Oh. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a deck that I have that gives me the heebie-jeebies or a deck that I don't want to get because of the heebie-jeebies. But I would say I'm not so keen on animals dressed as humans, so something like the Fantastic Menagerie is really not for me. And I have briefly talked about the Dreaming Way Tarot, which I do enjoy, but for a while I just couldn't stand these backs, which really, I'm sorry if this triggers anyone, but like honestly, like the kind of like phobia around holes and all of that, like I just, ugh. And I really just don't get these backs, like I really just don't get the backs, but I love the deck. So this is another one that I feel is really illustrative in terms of the way that each card is depicted. In fact, it's just brilliantly illustrated. It shows the characters so beautifully. I love this deck, but the backs just, yeesh. Oh yes, there's more. I'd probably say those two decks, but there are more. I do like some kind of scarier themed decks like the Tarot of the Vampires, and you know, I've got the Dark Royo and things like that. There's a zombie tarot I think I could not go in for, and I remember, I can't remember what it's called, but there's a deck with like lots of intestines and stuff in it, and yeah, that kind of thing is probably not really for me. I'm not really sure, I just don't really feel like looking at intestines. I think that's probably what it is. But having said that, like skulls and stuff don't bother me at all. So something like the Antique Anatomy, I don't have that deck, but I really like that deck, you know. And other decks sort of similar to that, like I absolutely love those. And I absolutely love the Santa Muerte Tarot, and you know, anything with skulls I love. So that doesn't really help, does it? But yeah, I think ones with like intestines in a kind of horror way, like a zombie kind of tarot. Like I watched The Walking Dead for years with my hubby, but for instance, if they brought out a Walking Dead tarot, I would not want it because it's just yuck. I think those would probably be decks that gave me heebie-jeebies as well. What is your favourite tarot spread of the moment? I love doing one-off tarot spreads, so ones that I just make up. So I have a question come into my head and then I pull cards. And I really like doing like moon spreads, so like dark moon spreads and full moon spreads, but they're always very different depending on what the moon is in and what season we're in and such. So that does depend. For a long time, every day I was doing like energy and then challenge and then like advice, or I did like my focus, the energy of the day, and then the outcome of the day. So it was sort of like more about what I wanted to get out of the day. So kind of a 3-card spread really for a sort of everyday kind of scenario. But yeah, those are probably like my go-tos. But when I read for others, I like to do a bit more than that, so it can be a little bit deeper. But yeah, I think that those are kind of my favorite sorts of spreads, either the ones that are kind of one-offs or the sort of energy advice kind of scenario, or like past, present, future, those kinds of things. Not that I tend to do past, present, future all that often, but I really do like the kind of my focus, the energy and the outcome. That kind of spread for me worked really well when I was doing it as an everyday thing. Prompt number 21 is what cards relate to you personally, not just your astrology association or court cards. Okay, so for astrology, I'm a Leo, so it would be Queen of Wands, I reckon, or Page of Wands. And I'm a Cancer moon and a Scorpio rising or ascendant, so water, there's a lot of water, so Queen of Cups is definitely a significator card for me in terms of astrology. And then yeah, they're courts, aren't they? So other significators for me, I see myself as the Empress because I am a nurturer and I physically am a mum, so that would be a good significator card for me. I see myself in the 8 of Pentacles as well, and in the 7 of Pentacles because of the way that I feel I work. I work quite hard, I work diligently, but in terms of like achieving goals and stuff, I see myself in those cards. The 9 of Pentacles, again, is a card that I've gotten quite a lot in my tarot reading past, and I feel that it does relate to where I feel I am and like what I've manifested and what I've achieved. The moon, I think, is a good significator card for me because, well, again, that's astrology, but I do think that as a witch and as someone who's, you know, sort of a sensitive and someone, you know, who delves deep into the shadow and stuff, I think that the moon works for me quite well as a significator. Also like the sun and the star. I know that might sound kind of weird, but I have always been quite young at heart, and joyful and hopeful as well, and glass half full. I think definitely in my youth, so maybe the baby on the horse in the sun, but also I do see myself as the fool as well, so definitely a fool. Yeah, definitely a fool. You know, there are so many cards I do feel that would resonate as a significator card, so I've had to pick one. I don't know, probably the Empress. So I'd probably say the Empress for me is the main one, but definitely the Fool as well. Yeah, I think the Empress because I'm a mum, literally physically right now where I am in life and sort of creation and such. I think that resonates. And the Fool just because I've always been kind of young at heart in that way. I think that resonates as well. So I'm gonna leave it there for today and continue in another video shortly. So thank you so much for joining me. I really, really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did find any value in it at all, if you found it interesting or funny or inspiring in any kind of way or relevant, then please do give the video a like and click the thumbs up button and share it with anyone who you think would enjoy it as well. Also, do let me know below if you are also doing this tag or some of the prompts to the tag, because I'd love to see more. And if you'd like to see more from me around tarot and witchcraft, magic, spiritual practice, those kinds of topics, then please do think about subscribing, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit that little bell notification as well, because that's how YouTube's going to let you know when I create and upload videos like this. So thank you again so much for joining me. I really hope you take care of yourselves, stay well and safe, and I look forward to seeing you in another video really soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.